Hello everyone, my name is Wouter and this is Luke. That's a friend of mine. He is going to use different accents in English. I also want to tell my audience, you can also check out my live stream on my Twitch channel. If you're listening, for example, to accents from Great Britain, do you have like a lot of trouble when you hear these accents?
Now I'd say no. But originally when I moved to Germany, like back in 2009, I apologize for two things. One, I feel like the guy was probably from Liverpool. If I'm not doing his accent justice, I again apologize. I was in the laundry room and he comes down with all his clothes. He's like, I mean, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something like, "Come down here, do a load, isn't it?" And I was like, "What did you just say?" He's like, "Clothes, come down and wash clothes, right?" I'm pretty sure I heard him that, and I was like, "Oh, wash my clothes, yeah." He's like, "Pretty terrible all smelling now, isn't it?" And I like it's pretty terrible smell there, isn't it? But then as time went on, I made a few different friends from the British Isles, or however you'd say it, and also just became more familiar with. I started talking to a lot more Germans who speak English in a way that is more British than it is American. It might not be totally British, but it is definitely more British than it's American. As you see, I have inconsistencies in my British accent that drive me absolutely mad. For example, I'm never sure whether I want to do a glottal stop for my T's, or if I want to do a hard t sound for my T's. Right? Is it a glottal stop or is it a glottal stop? I'm not really sure what I think is better for me because I've never even been. I've been to England for maybe a total of 3 hours, right? So I don't really have any idea of really what personality I'd like to portray when I'm there, or what socioeconomic status I think I would like to have, or how I'd like to come across. So it's a bit difficult for me. Also, another problem I have with the British accent when I'm trying to do it myself, if I'm listening, I can hear clearly, but if I'm trying to do it myself, I feel like I tend to drift between all of the different accents I've heard. It's not very stable. I find it very difficult to keep a straight British accent.
It was pretty good, I would say. Like
I,
there was.
I
Yeah.
think I can fool most people if I'm not talking for too long. But if I'm talking to a native English speaker, he will hear very quickly that it's not consistent. Like, how come you sound like you're from South London now, and now suddenly you sound all prim and proper, like you're using street slang, and in the next sentence you're talking way too proper, right? I think that's the problem I have, right? I think right now you can hear it. Right? It's like I'm 4 different people all in one sound, and that's a bit confusing, isn't it? Right. So I think that's weird. I watched a video for like a friend of mine who's a polyglot. I think he's native born Australian, but he's also lived in New Zealand and lived in China for a very long time and in Indonesia. And he speaks Australian English, I'm pretty sure. And I was watching his videos to try and be like, okay, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to finally learn the difference between Australian and English and British English, you know? I can hear it, but I can't produce it myself. So I found that really difficult. It's still the only thing I could pick up from his video was like, instead of saying like YouTube, right? I would say YouTube in American English, then YouTube in British English, but he says like YouTube. I saw something yesterday on YouTube. An Australian person, the mouth gets really moved, like the sound is really far forward, like no, almost like there's an R sound in it. No. No, I think New Zealand accents are really hard to imitate. I've been watching a couple of different streams and videos on YouTube from New Zealanders, but I still can't do it. I feel like it's still too much a mix of British and Australian, and not really unique New Zealand. So I feel bad about it, and I don't really even like to try it too hard. Oh God, it's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard.
Like sometimes I also hear something, but then I'll also try to produce it, but I still have like a Dutch accent probably. Like when I would say like, I'm a Londoner, I want a bottle of water, I want a bottle of water, I want to drink something with your mother. Like you can still hear
that. A lot of it was good. I think a lot of it was quite good, but you suffer from similar problems like I was talking about there. It's like you're focusing too much on pronouncing the right certain words correctly.
Yeah.
The little short phrases where you're talking quickly and you're not really focusing on exactly what you're saying, exactly the words, and they become too sort of what you're used to, instead of being what they should, instead of what sounding natural in that accent. So I think that's a really difficult part about it. You have to sort of, when you pay attention to accents, you have to pay attention more to the things that they're not stressing, because otherwise when you go to imitate them, you will only sound like a caricature of some sort, right?
Yeah.
I can be like a really creepy guy, right? Like if I just start talking like this all of a sudden, like it's just not, it doesn't probably make you feel very comfortable to listen to me talk like this. But I'm not really speaking a regional accent at all. It's just a weird way of talking. It's from some TV show or some movie. I'm not really sure, but you know, it's that creepy kind of like I'm really unsure of myself, but I'm probably really smart too. But all I did was I moved my teeth to the front of my mouth and I never let go. Right? Everything I say is like everything's just here.
Why did you start learning different languages? What was your idea?
Well, I grew up in a town where, I'm from America, so the United States, so there's not a whole lot of people really interested in languages and whatnot. But when I was a kid, I always thought Spanish TV shows or TV shows that had Spanish in them were cool and whatnot. And then I took some Spanish in high school, was okay at it. I always really wanted to learn German, though, right? My family's from Germany, like originally, right? Like the way Americans say their family's from Germany. Many generations back. But I was always interested to find out more about my heritage, and also the language just seemed kind of cool. I learned the word Flugzeug when I was like 11, and that was it. But then when I was like 18, 19, I changed my major at college, was looking for something interesting to study, and found out I was pretty good at learning languages. But that's something I discovered when I was living down south in Tennessee, right? And when I was living there, it was funny, right? This is something that kind of happens to a lot of Americans, I think, if they move to a different part of the country. When you move there, at first, the way people talk sounds really sounds really weird to you. But then as time goes on, you get so used to it, and then when you go back to where you're actually from originally, your dialect sounds like a mixture of the two things. Now, one thing that my criticism of myself when I speak when I speak in a Southern dialect is that I kind of switch uncontrollably between, you have a real kind of Southern drawl, like you're real loose, you let it hang out there. But then at the same time, you got like my cousin's from North Carolina. I feel like he's got that down south country vibe that's true, but it's not really the same as like the sort of, I should say, maybe the deeper south part down Alabama, right? If you talk to some people from Alabama and the way they talk, So for me, that was one way that I started to get interested in the whole thing, right? Not just through foreign languages, but through my own language and people talking differently in different sort of ways, right? So I know none of these are perfectly accurate, right? Because I keep bouncing sort of like, it's actually a really interesting topic to me to think about. Why did I get interested in languages? And I think a lot of it has to do with this, right? My own language and sort of what I was discovering there as well, and how different the identity of people can be based on their regional accents, even, right? Like even where I'm from, right? A lot of people where I'm from will say not wash your clothes, but wash your clothes. It was washing, you're gonna put your clothes in the washer.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you use different two different accents right now, right? I think like the first one was the.
Well, you could say probably like, I mean, I'm saying that probably 3 was what I was going for. There might have been 4, but I was trying to do a Tennessee accent to a North Carolina accent, but they kind of got confused. I started to switch in the middle, and then when you barely open your mouth, it makes me really feel like a lot of friends that I met from Alabama, where I'm from, we would call it Alabama, and I feel like my cousin would call it Alabama, and even in Tennessee they'd call it like Alabama. But in Alabama itself, a lot of people that I met from Alabama would say Alabama, and a lot of people just say Belma. I'm headed back to Belma tomorrow, Belma. And that actually was one of the funniest things for me living down south, was the way we call cities. Okay, so I went to school in a town called Murfreesboro. Right, pretty much spelled how you pronounce it in standard American English. So M-U-R free, right? Murfreesboro, Boro, B-O-R-O. And I get there, and the first person that says welcome to Murfreesboro doesn't say welcome to Murfreesboro, but he says welcome to Murfreesboro. Murphsbur, right? Murphsbur. Like all of the vowels are just gone. And then another example was a city right nearby was called Shelbyville. And a friend of mine said, "No, if you're from Murfreesboro, you don't call it Shelbyville. You call it shovel. Shovel." Like I'm like shovel? Like digging up using a shovel? He's pretty much, yeah. I'm gonna go buy some shovels and shovel. I'm gonna go buy some shovels in Shelbyville, and stuff like this. I'm very bad at German accents. Germans, forgive me. Well, I think that you can speak English with a pretty strong German accent, and still, it's not necessary that everything you say is like, this is the way to do this.
Something what I want to tell the audience, like I often have sessions with Luke. We practice languages. Like,
hey, nice, fix my name, nice.
I'm also improving my Mandarin, and sometimes we often have the sessions in Dutch about Mandarin, for example. So then you're improving your Dutch, and I'm improving my Mandarin, for example. I think these are really good sessions because, yeah, like often, yeah, you're also emphasizing the mistakes which I make, and I think that's good. So I also want to tell my audience, like, if there are any mistakes in my English, just tell me, because I also want to improve my English.
There are some things you could improve on, but overall, your English is better than probably 85% of the non-native English speaking world, right? So like nothing to be ashamed about at all. But definitely, if you want to move up, there's room to move up. That's the only idea that's the way I look at it, And my assumption when I correct people is that everyone wants to improve. And when people make assumptions, when people correct with the assumption that the reason you haven't improved yet is because you don't want to improve, I feel like that's mean-spirited, right? Because it's like they're already assuming that because a person is making mistakes, they're not interested in those mistakes. That they have no idea, right? So I feel like if you're going to offer criticism, be open about offering your criticism, and that maybe the person will actually appreciate the criticism, right? But at the same time, people who see criticism shouldn't always be so quick to say, "Oh, look, he's criticizing. He must be a hater. He must be jealous," right? I feel like it would be just better if we could be way more open about it, the whole thing, Be like,
I think constructive criticism, let's call it like that, I think that's very helpful. So that's also why what I'm asking when I'm making videos, like, just tell me in the comments, like, how I could improve, and then I will use it for my next video. Most people have good intentions when they're giving criticism, and if they would not tell it, it would take way longer, like
realize, yeah.
I mean, I often make the same mistakes, and then I was like, I wish you said it before, So I always appreciate it. Like, another thing where I'm really struggling with is the sound in English, like to think. It's always
Okay.
like, so maybe
next time we work on that a little bit. Yeah.
I really wanted to thank you for joining this video project. Like, it was very cool, interesting also, like how you explained the detailed the details of different accents. See you next time, bro.
See you next Tuesday. Okay.
See you soon, bro. Cheers.
See you.